You're sitting in a dealership showroom right now, staring at a brand new car with that intoxicating smell of fresh leather and plastic, and somewhere deep in your gut you feel it, that nagging voice whispering that maybe, just maybe, you should walk across the street to the used lot instead. But you won't, and you know why? Because someone, somewhere along the line, taught you that buying used means you failed, that it's embarrassing, that it's beneath you. And that lie, that single cultural poison, has cost Americans more money than almost any other financial mistake in history. And today, we're gonna rip that mask off and show you exactly how you've been programmed to throw your wealth away. If you've ever felt that shame, if you've ever wondered why a used car feels like a downgrade even when the numbers scream it's the smarter choice, then smash that like button right now, because what you're about to learn will fundamentally change how you see every purchase for the rest of your life. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're just getting started on exposing the financial traps that keep you broke. Hey, this is Mark, and you're welcome to AUTOSAYS. Now, let's go back to 1920s America for a second, because that's when this whole mess started. Back when Henry Ford was cranking out Model Ts like clockwork, and Alfred Sloan at General Motors looked at that situation and thought, we have a problem. People are buying one car and keeping it forever. How do we make them buy more? So Sloan invented something diabolic. He invented the idea of the model year, the concept that your car, even if it runs perfectly, is outdated, old, less than, simply because a newer version exists. This wasn't about engineering. This was about psychology, about making you feel inadequate for driving last year's model. And it worked so well that by the 1950s, Americans were trading in cars every 2 to 3 years, not because they needed to, but because they were ashamed not to. The post-war boom amplified this to insane levels. Advertisements showed gleaming chrome and tail fins that grew bigger every year, and your neighbors were watching, judging, measuring your worth by what sat in your driveway. And if you drove something used, something older, you were basically announcing to the world that you couldn't keep up, that you were poor, that you were less than. Detroit knew this. They fed on it. They built entire marketing campaigns around the fear of being left behind. And the American consumer, flush with post-war cash and credit, ate it up without question. But here's where it gets really twisted, because this wasn't just about vanity. This was about creating a permanent debt cycle. You see, when you buy new, you lose 20 to 30% of that car's value the moment you drive it off the lot. It's like setting a pile of cash on fire before you even get home. But the culture tells you that's normal. That's just how it works, and you accept it. Meanwhile, someone buying a 2 or 3-year-old version of the exact same car gets basically the same vehicle, often still under warranty, for 40% less. But they're the ones who feel embarrassed. They're the ones making excuses, saying things like, oh, I just needed something reliable for now, as if the used car is a temporary compromise rather than a brilliant financial move. The numbers are staggering when you actually break them down. Let's say you buy a new car for $40,000, average transaction price in America today. You finance it for 6 years at 6% interest, you're paying about $47,000 total with interest, but that car is worth maybe $28,000 after 3 years. So you've spent $47,000 on something worth $28,000. That's a $19,000 loss, nearly 20 grand evaporated into thin air. Now, take someone who buys that same car used at 3 years old. They pay $28,000, finance it for 4 years at the same rate, they pay about $31,000 total. And after 3 more years, that car is worth maybe $18,000. So their loss is $13,000. They saved $6,000 on the same car, the same driving experience, just by swallowing their pride and ignoring what the culture told them to do. But wait, it gets even better, because that person who bought new, they're probably going to trade in and buy another new car in 6 years, starting the cycle again, while the used buyer can keep that car longer, maintain it well, and save even more. Over a lifetime, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in difference, money that could go to retirement, to your kids' education, to actually building wealth instead of faking it in a driveway. So why don't more people do this? Why do 70% of car sales in America still involve someone buying new or nearly new when the math is so obvious? Because shame is more powerful than spreadsheets. Because we're social animals, and we've been conditioned to believe that our value as human beings is reflected in the newness of our possessions. The car industry spent the entire 20th century building this belief system, brick by brick, ad by ad, and now it's so deeply embedded in American culture that even people who know better, people who understand the math, still feel that pull, that anxiety about what others will think. And here's the really sick part. The people judging you, the neighbors and friends whose opinions you're so worried about, half of them are drowning in car debt themselves. They're making the same stupid mistake, sacrificing their financial future to maintain an image. And you're all locked in this mutual self-destruction pact, too proud or too scared to be the first one to break free. Let me tell you about Japan for a second, because they have a completely different relationship with used cars. In Japan, cars depreciate so fast because of strict inspection requirements that buying used is not just normal, it's expected, it's smart. Nobody bats an eye, there's no shame, no judgment, and as a result, the Japanese used car market is massive, efficient, and people save enormous amounts of money. In Europe, same thing. Many countries have strong used car cultures, where buying pre-owned is seen as savvy, not sad. But in America, we've convinced ourselves that only new will do, that anything less is failure, and the auto industry laughs all the way to the bank. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Mark, but what about reliability? What about warranties? What about the risk of buying someone else's problem? And those are valid questions, but the truth is, modern cars are built to last way longer than they used to. A well-maintained car can easily go 200,000 miles or more, so buying something with 30 or 40,000 miles isn't risky, it's smart. You're letting someone else eat the depreciation while you get a basically new car. Plus, you can get certified pre-owned vehicles with warranties that rival new cars. You can get inspection reports, vehicle history reports. There are more tools than ever to reduce risk, but the culture still whispers, what if something goes wrong? What if people think you're cheap? What if you made a mistake? And those fears, planted decades ago by marketing geniuses, keep you trapped. The real mistake isn't buying used. The real mistake is letting fear and shame dictate your financial decisions, is choosing to impress people you don't even like with money you don't even have. And that's not just about cars, that's about everything. Houses, clothes, phones. We've been trained to consume, to upgrade, to never be satisfied, and it's killing us financially. Think about the opportunity cost here. Every dollar you waste on unnecessary car depreciation is a dollar you can't invest, can't save, can't use to build actual wealth. Let's say you save that $6,000 every time you buy used instead of new, and you do that 3 times over your lifetime. That's $18,000. Invest that in the stock market with average returns, and over 30 years, that becomes over $100,000. That's retirement money. That's freedom money. That's the difference between working until you're 70 and retiring at 60. All because you decided to ignore what strangers think about your driveway. And the crazy thing is, most people don't even notice what you drive after the first week. They're too busy worrying about their own lives, their own cars, their own insecurities. The judgment you're so afraid of is mostly in your head, planted there by a century of advertising designed to make you feel inadequate.
Buy our new
car.
car. Feel the rush of losing $10,000.
Buy our new car and immediately lose $10,000.
$10
Feel the shame of
No
financial
way.
irresponsibility. Impress people who don't care about you. Sounds insane, right? But that's actually what's happening. We just dress it up in beautiful cinematography and emotional music and pretend it's something else. The truth is, buying used isn't about being cheap. It's about being smart. It's about valuing your financial freedom more than the opinions of people who don't pay your bills. And once you break free from that shame, once you realize it's all a construct, a story we've been told, you can start making decisions based on what actually matters: your goals, your values, your future. Now, let's talk about how this plays out in real life, because I know some of you are thinking, easy for you to say, Mark, but I have to drive clients around, or I work in a professional environment where image matters. And okay, fair point. There are some situations where your vehicle does contribute to your professional credibility, but even then, a 3-year-old luxury car looks identical to a new one to 99% of people. You can still play the image game if you have to, you just play it smarter. You let someone else take the depreciation hit while you get the same result. The key is being intentional, asking yourself, am I buying this because it genuinely serves my goals, or am I buying it because I'm afraid of what people will think? And if the answer is fear, if the answer is shame, then you're making a decision from weakness, not strength, and that's how you stay broke. That's how you stay trapped in the cycle. The auto industry has evolved too. They've gotten smarter about keeping you hooked. Now we have subscription services, perpetual leases, offers that make it feel like you're always driving something new without the commitment. But it's the same trap with a different name. You're still paying for depreciation, you're still giving them your money every month, you're still choosing status over wealth. And the financing game has gotten even more predatory. 72-month loans, 84-month loans. People are financing cars for 7 years, which means they're underwater on the loan for most of that time, meaning they owe more than the car is worth. And when they want to trade in, they roll that negative equity into the next loan, going deeper and deeper into debt, all to maintain the appearance of success. Here's what the wealthy actually do, and I'm talking about people with real money, not people faking it. They buy used, they pay cash or finance very little, they keep cars longer, they don't care what you think because they're too busy building wealth to worry about your opinion. And that's the ultimate irony. The people who can actually afford to buy new often don't, while the people who can't afford it are the ones lining up at dealerships, signing away their futures for a fleeting feeling of accomplishment. So what's the solution? How do you break free from this? First, you have to recognize the shame for what it is, a manufactured emotion designed to control your behavior. It's not real, it's not based on logic, it's based on decades of conditioning, and you can reject it. You have that power. Second, you run the numbers. You look at the actual cost of new versus used. You calculate the depreciation, the interest, the opportunity cost, and you let the math guide you, not your ego. Third, you reframe the narrative. Buying used isn't settling, it's winning. It's outsmarting a system designed to keep you poor. It's taking control of your financial destiny instead of letting corporations and peer pressure dictate your choices. And fourth, you find community. You surround yourself with people who value financial intelligence over appearances, who celebrate smart decisions instead of flashy ones. Because if everyone around you is competing to see who can waste the most money, you're going to struggle to break free. The quiet shame of buying used is really the quiet shame of thinking for yourself, of refusing to follow the herd, of prioritizing your future over your image. And that's hard. That takes courage, but it's also the only way to build real wealth, real security, real freedom. The auto industry will keep pushing new. They have to. Their entire business model depends on it. They need you to feel inadequate, to feel like you're missing out, to believe that happiness is just one purchase away. But it's a lie. It's always been a lie. And the sooner you see through it, the sooner you can start building the life you actually want, instead of the life you think you're supposed to want. So here's your challenge. Next time you're thinking about buying a car, before you even step foot in a dealership, sit down and run the numbers. Compare new versus used. Calculate the total cost over the life of the loan. Think about what else you could do with that money, and then make your decision from a place of clarity and strength, not fear and shame. And if you do decide to buy used, own it. Be proud of it. Tell people you made a smart financial decision, because you did. And if they judge you for it, that says everything about them and nothing about you. The real flex isn't a new car. The real flex is financial freedom, is having options, is not being enslaved to debt, is being able to retire when you want, to travel, to live life on your terms. And none of that happens when you're throwing money away to impress strangers. This isn't just about cars. This is about a mindset, about breaking free from consumerism, about recognizing that you've been sold a story that doesn't serve you and choosing to write a different one. The auto industry built an empire on your insecurity, but you don't have to keep feeding it. You can step back. You can choose differently. You can be the person who breaks the cycle. And when you do, when you start making decisions based on what actually builds wealth instead of what looks good, everything changes. Not just your bank account, but your whole relationship with money, with consumption, with what it means to live a successful life. So if this video opened your eyes, if it made you think differently about that shame you've been carrying, then hit that subscribe button, because we're gonna keep pulling back the curtain on all the ways you've been programmed to stay broke. And I promise you, once you start seeing these patterns, you can't unsee them, and that's when you start winning. The quiet shame of buying used is really just the sound of your financial future calling, asking you to be brave enough to answer. So what's it going to be? Are you going to keep playing their game, or are you ready to start playing your own? The choice has always been yours. You just didn't know it until now.